Vin Diesel, it's an honor. I still have my first ticket from 20 years ago for the first Fast and Furious film. And I saw that movie 9 times in theaters. And now to be able to talk to you about it 20 years later is incredible to me. And you have a line in the trailer, the new trailer, where you say the world has a way of changing, and we change too. And I wanted to know, for you, over the years, 20 years playing Dominic Toretto, how has Dominic Toretto changed you? What aspects of your own life have you pulled from Dom and kind of into your own life perspective?
Great question. It's and I guess I never thought of it that way, because normally I'm thinking, how does my real life maybe affect the Dom character? My father was an acting teacher when I was 7 years old. And so we'd always have thespians over for dinner. And he had said to me when Fate of the Furious came out, he said, you know, something that none of my actor friends ever imagined would be playing a character for 20 years on the big screen, what that would be like, how that character would evolve, because it would have to, because of your own life. This film is very much about fatherhood, and it's no coincidence that when I did the first movie that you saw, I wasn't a father, and now 20 years later I am a father. And some of those lines, even when you see the movie or when you saw the first trailer, there are exchanges with my kid on screen that come directly from my real life. So I don't know if I can pinpoint any, but I can definitely say that they are they cross over. Dom and my real life have to cross over when you're committed to playing a character like that for 2 decades.
I appreciate that answer. You know, one of the things I noticed in both trailers is you refer to John Cena's character as little brother. And I'm trying to understand the dynamic, because I know there's going to be a whole history there, but there's got to be a specific reason you're saying that. Can you speak on that a little bit?
I can, especially to someone who has the ticket to the first Fast and Furious from 20 years ago. And I think you've shown me that ticket in the past.
I have.
So it's something I always, now I'm going to expect every time I talk to you, that you give me that like a badge of honor. What's interesting about this movie, and what's interesting about the franchise, is there are so many avenues, just like real life, to explore in the mythology. Because Dom is a father, this is the first film that he has to reconcile with his own father, or the loss of his own father. And in doing that, we have to actually travel before the first Fast and the Furious. And in that world, through exploration, we find there is, ironically, a broken, severed brotherhood that now must be reconciled with.
Well, I can't wait to see that. I'll end on this. And I've never showed this to you before. I actually have this is Saving Private Ryan.
Oh my God.
And I have to ask you this, because that was a major film for you at the beginning of your career. And I wanted to know what you pulled from Spielberg then that you still use now, all these years later.
Such a great question. When I had done Saving Private Ryan, it was the first Hollywood picture I'd ever done. And he, paid me. It was the first time I had ever been paid as an actor. But it wasn't the first time I ever made a movie. The first time I made a movie was obviously for Cannes, and then Sundance Picture. When I was making these independent movies, I made it with so much passion and so much conviction. And maybe at that time, I couldn't imagine that somebody with so many accolades and so much success could have the same passion that an independent filmmaker could have, or an independent filmmaker needed to have in order to make a movie. When I did Saving Private Ryan, I saw that same spirit in Steven Spielberg. And that's why we've been friends ever since.
Wow, that's incredible. I appreciate that, Vin. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for all these films. Thank you for all that you've done for cinema. I hope you truly understand how much your movies have meant to me over the years. So this is an absolute honor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that.
Hope you're staying safe.
You too, brother.
Mr. Cena, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I've been following this franchise all my life. I saw the first one 9 times in theaters, one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. Is there a movie that you saw repeatedly over and over when you were growing up in theaters, and just the idea of returning to theaters now, and this being one of the big films to return to theaters? But what's the theatrical experience been like for you over the years?
Well, the movies that I saw as a young man were movies that I shouldn't have seen as a young man. So I'll leave it as that. The theater, I think this time that's happened has made us appreciate the things that have been taken away, and the ability to collectively gather together and be entertained is one of those things. And as entertainment changes with the success of streamers and the ability to watch wherever, you need to have a reason to go. And there are becoming less and less reasons to actually go congregate and be entertained. Fast remains one of those reasons, and everyone around the world knows it. A fast release has that energy around it because I gotta go see this one. It's not I can't wait to see this, it's I have to go. So I know it's been cruddy that we've had to wait so long. We were supposed to be April 2020, but I really respect the decision to wait, because you have to go and see this one. And now we're finally in a position where it's going to be a really great ride at the theater.
Yeah, I can't wait. There's a line in the new trailer. Dom says, the world has a way of changing and we change too. And you're talking about the pandemic specifically and kind of the delay of the film and now the release of it coming out. Just for you personally over this time, like, how do you feel your perspective on life has changed at all just due to the pandemic, maybe being with family more, friends more? How has it changed for you, just your perspective?
Well, I think the old saying of you don't know what you have until it's gone rings true. Something as simple as connecting with a friend or giving someone you love a hug. These are things that should exist in life, and because of the current situation, they don't. A noisy street, being able to sit next to a bunch of strangers at a cafe and have a bunch of coffee and watch the world go by. I could go on and on, but I just think it's when things are taken from us, sometimes we don't realize their value until they are taken. And I know personally that I won't take for granted the things that have been absent in the last 18 months of my life. I'll be very appreciative when I get to a point when they can come back. It was really, really special to see WrestleMania this weekend and to see fans there for the first time. And I know hopefully that's going to be in the near future for live entertainment. It's just really good to see all that stuff again.
Yeah, when the first trailer came out, the reveal of you being Dom's brother was a great reveal. I love that scene when you guys have the two guns and you guys are going back and forth for a second. And he says little brother to you. And that's a line that actually kind of gives you some depth into maybe how their relationship is. Can you speak on that line specifically and why Dom calls you little brother? I mean, obviously, maybe if he's older or younger, but there's got to be a reason why he says that to you in that way.
Man, I can tell you are a super fan, and that is such a good pickup. I don't want to give away too much, but I can say you're onto something, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Oh, that's awesome. I like hearing that. John, you mentioned WrestleMania, and I love the Fast franchise. Obviously, The Rock was part of it with the few films that he was part in, WWE Superstars. And I just wonder specifically, like, did you speak to him at all about entering this franchise? And do you still tap into elements of wrestling when you still play a role like this?
Okay. Dwayne gave me some advice years ago when I started taking chances on certain roles, like with Trainwreck and Sisters, and being able to kind of go out of what I was identified as. And he simply said, man, just be yourself. That's why they're asking you to be there. And I've never lost that. As far as the Fast franchise, I was able to sit under the learning tree of the heartbeat of the franchise, and that's Vin. And, being kind of interviewed by him to even be considered, and then getting his blessing understanding the importance of bearing the Toretto last name, he has just a different perspective of it than everyone else, and he's been there since the beginning, and he is the heart and soul. So that I couldn't ask for a better experience and someone to mentor, especially in that role. My WWE experience helps not just my professional life, has helped my life as a human being every single day.
Wow. Well, John, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm very, very excited to see you in this. Obviously, very excited about Suicide Squad as well. Congratulations on the incredible career you're having, and I'm really hoping to see you do more and more, man. You're a great guy, and I appreciate your time as always, John. Thank you.
Very kind words, man. Thank you.
Now, I have probably watched. So I've been a fan of this franchise all my life. I saw the first one 9 times in theaters when it first came out. It's been a big, big deal of my life. But every time a trailer comes out for the new Fast and Furious, I'm like, how crazy are they going to get? There's a shot, which I think you posted on your Twitter, where the car literally goes through the building and ends up in that yellow truck. And I was reading, I think like 8 months of prep, 4 days to shoot it. Can you talk about 3 cars destroyed? How did that scene all come together? Why did the 3 other cars get destroyed? Did it happen a few times?
The reason why it took 3 cars was that, I wanted to do it practically. That's always how we start, no matter what, let's do it practically. And then we could use all the other tools to help tell that story. And so the reason why it took 3 was that I wrecked 2 of them. One of them actually didn't go through and we had to go buy another car. But it is kind of part of the fun of doing these. And I feel like it's my responsibility, to come up with these crazy ideas so that, because I have the best crew in the world, and I still enjoy going in a production meeting and telling them what we're going to do. And it's usually 10 seconds of fear or confusion or how are we going to do this? But what I always love is after that 10 seconds, they're ready to roll up their sleeves and we're going to figure out a really process to bring that to life.
Han, Justice for Han, this is like a really big deal for fans. And what's cool about this is Better Luck Tomorrow, which was a film that I studied in college. The character he plays in that film is continuing through the Fast and Furious franchise. So it's kind of like a prequel to Fast and Furious. But just talk about that connection, like your connection to that film and to now, and obviously bringing him back and kind of what that means for the fans.
Well, obviously Han is, means a lot to me, and I think, it was interesting because the way the ending for Better Luck Tomorrow, when we would, go to festivals and do a lot of the press, people ask, well, what happened to these characters? What happened after the credits roll, right? And as I was developing Tokyo Drift, I really had Sung in mind. And it for some reason, Han, the backstory that he's also, running away from something, it just started feeling like it was the same character. And when I sat down with Sung, I said, you know what? It's Han. In a way, it's a spiritual connection, but let's just call it Han, And it became this, and we didn't tell anybody. We just kind of went with it. It was great for our conversation because it really built something, a backstory to this character that I think the strength of Han is that he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but when he's on there, you really get a sense of him. You get a sense of, history, you get a sense of who he is, And so when I left on Fast 6, I felt like, well, I came in with Han, let's go out together, and I truly felt like that was it. That was it for me. That was it for Han, And then what was weird was that, through the times, especially when I was traveling, fans would stop me and talk to me about characters. And I'd be like, okay, great. Thank you. But I'm not part of the franchise anymore. And then I was at a screening for Better Luck Tomorrow, and in the Q&A, someone brought up Justice for Han, and I hadn't seen the movie. So I was like, what? It baffled me too, And so in a way, when I decided to come back, it felt like, well, it's part of my job to really correct something that made no sense, And so it ended up being kind of poetic that, coming back, part of the responsibility was to actually correct something. But by doing that, I get to bring back one of my favorite characters.
And I want to say thank you because you continue to shoot these movies on film, which is amazing. I think you shot this on the Super 35 with Panavision. Can you talk about keeping that 35 millimeter look throughout the franchise? I think some of them have been shot digitally, but I know that you continue to do it through film. So why is film important to you?
This is a little bit more mixed, but I think it's important to, I think there's something for me. I know I'm a kind of film geek. You know, when I came up, when I made my first indie movie, 250,000. Most of that money went into buying film and developing film. And so I think, kind of growing up in that age, there's just something very, there's a chemistry. Literally silver highlight, and it's to try to create an image through like connection. And that's something that I have to say, I think in the digital format, it creates a very different experience, and so when appropriate, especially in this film, there were just certain scenes that like we had to shoot on film, and it's just great to be able to kind of feel the grain and feel that kind of negotiation through the chemicals to try to tell a story visually.